Play. In 1973, my sunny days began and ended with me sitting on my front steps, my castle. Not like many children today who require electronic gadgets to occupy themselves, I could busy my inquisitive mind for hours on end on my steps, counting the cars that went by. I used to pretend I was Diane Carroll, giving a speech to my loyal fans with my head held high and tilted, looking down beyond my pointed nose, with my hair curled, poofy, and perfect, like a high-fashioned helmet, or maybe pressed straight and pulled back tight in a bun. I pretended I was a queen on my royal grounds, my home, where I loved the smell of fresh grass, where there was my tree that was 9 papa steps in front of my porch. My front steps. There were only 3, and that was perfect. My mom, dad, and I had recently moved from the green apartment building on Walnut on the east side to the single-family dwellings on the west side of Long Beach at 1367 Cameron Street. The house was right around the corner from both sets of my grandparents, who lived on Taper Street, across from each other. In the apartment on Walnut, before my sister Rashawn was born, we lived on the 2nd floor. The steps were ugly, concrete, and cobblestone. There was a peekaboo space between each one and a black iron rod to hold on to as one traversed up and down. Those steps were not mine. They belonged to everyone. No one claimed them as their own. No one dreamed of having long brown hair and marrying a prince on those steps. Those steps were not my friends. I would not tell my secrets there. One day, I was in the living room and the door was left open. I was finally tall enough to open the screen door. A screen that barely held out flies, an easy unlock. My tricycle was parked at the top of the staircase. It was blue and had white strips of plastic that hung from the handlebars to flitter in the wind as I rocketed by. I opened the door, and I was on the top of the steps. I sat there and visualized myself gliding down on my tricycle. I fancied my plastic strips waving away in the wind like fire. A delightful way to spend an uneventful Sunday afternoon, I imagine. The coast was clear, and I went for it. I tumbled down the steps, crying all the way. I landed at the bottom and found myself hurt, but was safe. Mostly, I was disappointed. That was not what I had envisioned. 3 teenaged boys strolled by who thought my adventure was funny. My father, annoyed by their mockery, suddenly sobered from Schlitz malt liquor, and Mary Jane showed them, in his special way, that it was not. My Cameron Street steps were not disappointing like those. They did not call out to me with the intent of temptation when I was momentarily unsupervised. They did not offer excitement on a peaceful Sunday and then produce danger. My new steps did not lie. I was safe there. They were red, 3, and mine. Next door, on Cameron, west of us, was a greenhouse. I don't remember a mommy or daddy, but I remember 2 girls whose names and faces I can never call to mind. I have not outgrown their voices, however, raspy and heavy. They had cool tennis shoes and strong arms, cold fingers, and could double dutch a full song. Indeed, they were real, though I have had lovers who wish they were not. They were about 15 and 16. The oldest was the boss of us, of her sister who was taller with shorter hair, and boss of me too. At some time, it was okay with my parents that I went in their backyard with them. Their yard shared the same fence as ours. Their grass was the same green and the same size. They also had pomegranate and lemon trees, a garage, and no dog. We did not have a dog yet. But their yard was not mine. They had a white tent behind the garage and a nephew, maybe my age. There was also a big boy, a teenager who lived on our block. I don't remember his name. Almost his voice, barely his hair that was short like big boys wore their hair, faded blue jeans, slightly too big that looked clean but were not, was skinny and had black boy sad eyes and big lips with a half-happy smile, poked and held to one side. One day, we were all in the tent. The sisters, the nephew, the teenager, and I. I was 4. And the older sister demanded I stop being a big baby and suck the big boy's dick. Somehow, I knew that boys had pee-pees, but dicks were new. Perhaps pee-pees grew into dicks, I thought. But my young Virgo analysis was not going to postpone this. There was a teenage dick in front of me, and big girls I thought were my friends, demanding I suck. But it was not peppermint or bitter honey, more like a bomb pop or big stick. Not from the ice cream truck with bells and whistles. It was not smooth and orange or sweet and inviting. It was Play-Doh left open, ashy and uncared for. I wanted my steps. This was my first dick, and I wanted my steps that were safe and red and led to my porch, where there was dust, loose gravel, chipped paint, but no dicks. My porch had no dicks. But I was far from my porch, far from my lawn, never perfectly manicured, but mine, just next door, but miles from my father, who would beat that dick up if he knew. Far from my mother, who would spank their big girl butts if she knew that her daughter was not sucking at all, was gagging on flesh too big for her mouth, too hard for her jaws, too long for her throat, a dick. Even the name was not nice. I did not like the big sister's yelling hand touching too firmly my barrettes that were red like my porch. Did not like the other sister moaning like it felt good to her, her eyes half closed and head moving passionately in half circles, then back again, the slow inhale, hiss, and ah, like I was doing it right. Then from nowhere there was liquid that was warm, salty, and not my spit anymore. I ran out of the tent screaming, "He peed in my mouth! He peed in my mouth!" I ran as fast as I could to get to my porch. That was now just a porch and not safe. Into my bed, my for real castle. Before I could get to the gate, the short-haired one caught me. I kicked and screamed, but she carried me to the T-shaped clothesline post that was strong, sturdy, and cemented into the ground. Maybe this was for more than sun-drying skirts and blouses to be worn on Sundays. She tied a thick brown rope around my neck, tied the other end to the top of the post. Then she picked me up and held my body as it swung. Surely this was a station for girls who could not swallow pee. For girls who could not run faster than a 15-year-old. This was a 4-year-old's Calvary. She told me that I would not say anything because if I did, she would tell my mother that it was all my idea, that I was a nasty girl. Me? My mother could not believe I was a nasty girl. But what if she did? What if I was? She let me go with a shove that said all I needed to know. I was too scared to tell my parents. That night, when it was time for my bath, my mother noticed the rope burn around my neck. I lied about how I got it. I knew she didn't believe me. I could no longer go into their backyard. Couldn't be with the girls at all. Fine with me. I don't remember the speech after the bath. Don't remember what happened to the Dick or the nephew. I vaguely recall the girls after that. I do remember my steps were too close to theirs. They were not my steps anymore anyway. There was a Dick.